And welcome everybody to another Tactical DCS session, Advanced Rotary Sessions. Subject is Convoy Operations or Convoy Escorts. So, I'd like to welcome everybody here. I am BullDawg 6. I used to be an ex-Army officer, flew Helos. I fly in real life. Um, so, this is my opportunity to give back to everybody and to share my
Okay.
experiences as well as provide cool things for everybody. In DCS, we do a lot of cool things. There is up to like 37 to 40 different types of missions that you can do with helicopters compared to the 6 or 7 things that you can do with jets. I mean, you can do cap, you can do CAS, you can do transport. A lot of those type of things that you can do are very limited in the fast mover, but in the helicopter realm, we can do so much more. And I want you to think of your helicopters today as not a piece of equipment like a jet or a fighter or something like that. I want you to think of it as another ground vehicle because the ground commander, as myself, I would view you as you are a piece of equipment that can move around the battlefield. The only difference between you that's in an Apache, for example, and a tank is the tank can only move so fast and go so far. You in a helicopter, I can move you immediately from one side of the battlefield to the other. You also have the capability of being the eyes in the sky, and you can fly slow. Even if you're doing an escort with an A-10, you are limited time on station and time to see things that you only have 30 seconds to look at something. Compared to a helicopter, you can actually hover and you can really study what you're looking at. So let's dive right straight into it. Planning. So when we're doing something like this and we're providing an escort, even in DCS, in different types of aspects, you can be on any type of server and it might be a mission that you're escorting a convoy to resupply another location. So what does that really mean for you? You're going to be the guy that protects the convoy. You could be the guy that is the observer that can see far away to help that convoy commander make a decision on should I turn left? Should I turn right? Should I stop? Should I go? You can check kill boxes, you can check bridges, you can check things that might impact the convoy. So, with that being the case, in some DCS servers, you might have a person that is a real person that is moving the convoy around, and he's relying on you to be his eyes in the sky to give him what's the hazards. So, we're going to have to plan things. So, when you are supporting a convoy, you need to be in the planning process. What are the critical things that the convoy commander might decide and might need to adjust for? One of those things might be the terrain. It could be anything from, hey, can you conduct a route recon and conduct this route recon and tell me where my choke points are? Okay. Or conduct a route recon. How does this area here where this village is, where checkpoint 1 is, what does it look like? Oh man, there's a lot of insurgents. I got shot at. You need to bypass it. Great. So you're reconning a route, you're reconning those hazards. Very, very important. That can be a part of the convoy commander's decision making process that allows him to be more effective and to protect his convoy, or maybe decide, hey, can you engage those targets, take them out? We're going to push through as fast as we can because there's no way around it. We have to go through those areas. Other things that can be on this map could be ID of hazards, choke points, ambush sites. So as we're looking at this, this is an example of all these things that could be on a route. We have an SP or a start point. So from this start point, we have a rally point that we start to escort the convoy. We might have another aircraft that conducts a route reconnaissance while we are escorting. Or let's say we're the only ones there, we'll conduct a route reconnaissance of this route to identify things like maybe restricted areas. There's an overpass. If that bridge gets taken out, how are you going to cross? If you don't know ahead of time, how are you going to help him make decisions? Are there certain locations that are prone to be IEDs or explosive devices that are implanted in the grounds or vehicles? Do you see a lot of destruction in the AO? Do you have other types of things like the road is way curvy and you have to drive really, really slow, which creates almost like a kill box? And then, when is there going to be friendlies? Are you going to hand over your responsibility to somebody else? So, those are things to always kind of think about. Other things that you need to think about as a convoy escort is, what if something happens? Now, in all my missions, like today, if you're participating in the flying portion or the practical exercise, it is real world stuff. It's real world talking. Guys that are talking on the radio, on the ground, you're going to hear them. And, do we need a medevac? Do we not? Is there a vehicle or is there people? So you need to talk and you need to have your listening ears on at all times, because crucial information, it's not just you by yourself. And remember, in these advanced rotary sessions, it goes beyond just flying an aircraft. It is going to, how do you utilize that aircraft more effectively? So when we're planning this stuff out, we also need to think about how are we going to react to contacts of different types. Contacts, for example, the vehicle breaking down because it blew a tire. Okay. Now it's in a spot, it's not moving. Do we need to support it or clear the area to make sure there's nobody that's going to engage? Do we need to plan on certain spots in case we get ambushed and the vehicles get ambushed and they need to be a medevac location? What's the frequency that we're going to be using? How are we going to designate locations for pickup? And then have a backup plan in case things go to heck. I mean, if you have a bridge that goes out, you might be required, okay, I need you to recon the bridge to the north, to the south, find out which one's good. You recon the one to the south and you find out that that bridge is out as well. That only leads you to the north. You are given that opportunity to help that ground commander or that convoy commander make those type of decisions. That's why it's really, really crucial. So, what type of assets do you have to conduct this type of operation? What are good? What are bad? Let's say, for example, a Huey or a hip. Okay, well, you can transport. You can also fly a little slow. Is a hip easier to fly slow than a K-50 or an Apache? You know, those are things that you have to consider. How are you going to utilize the right aircraft for the right tool and the right job? I would say, for example, if I'm a lone helicopter supporting and escorting a convoy, I might say, hey, do you mind if I hop in a Gazelle? And I can fly the Gazelle pretty slow. I've got great visibility because I've got a bubble canopy. Or I might say, hey, let me hop in an OH-6 or an AH-6. Great visibility if I'm by myself. Or maybe an Apache, or maybe a Kiowa, or maybe, like a Ka-50. Some aircraft are harder to control at slower speeds than others, because how fast are you going to go depending on your convoy speed? So if your convoy speed is pushing out at 35 miles an hour or like 25 knots, it's really hard to fly something that's big, because then you really don't have that maneuverability that you're kind of expecting, and it's harder to control. So, the right tools for the right job. Do we have any fixed wing assets and what's their responsibility? We could be providing this escort and we have no guns. We could be in a Huey. We could be, doing a long flight in an Apache, and all I have is my chain gun on the nose and I'm carrying fuel tanks. So I have the loader time to follow this entire convoy for 2.5, 3 hours. So what other assets do I have? Oh, hey, I've got some A10s that are going to be operating in the AO as well. I can use them to be the hammer if I need it. So those are kind of things you need to kind of think about. What kind of organics protection that the convoy has? Is it a fuel convoy? A fuel convoy that has a couple of vehicles in front, a couple of vehicles behind, and it's nothing but fuel vehicles like him at tankers. What type of protection you might need for that? Or is it an armor convoy? Might be heavy tanks. Well, they got their own self protection. What do they need you for? They probably just need you to be the eyes in the sky so they can maneuver in different areas if the road is out and so forth. And then lastly, how do we shoot? How do we move? And how do we communicate? How do we communicate on what radios? What do we monitor? And so forth. Because as I am supporting a convoy commander, I want to be able to have that direct line communication with that convoy commander or his second. Now, in that convoy commander is going to be talking to every one of his vehicles. So he's not going to be on the same frequency. So he might be using a VHF frequency to talk to the aircraft and an FM frequency to talk to his convoy. You, as the supporting element protecting this convoy, might monitor the convoy's frequency so you can kind of get a good situational awareness of what the convoy is doing. Hey, yeah, my vehicle, it's getting hot. I'm gonna have to slow down. It's looking like I'm gonna have to stop and let it cool down. Well, now you're ahead of the game in knowing what the convoy commander might be asking of you. He might say, hey, I need you to orbit around us to make sure that got no vehicles that are tailing us or coming up. We're gonna have to pull over to the side and we're gonna have to get a wrecker to come out here and pick this vehicle up and tow it. Roger that. So do we split the element? Do we not? Those are things to be in the communication aspect and knowing what's happening. So, how are you going to engage targets? The ground commander might say, hey, I want you to lay down suppressive fire in this village, lay down rockets, and we're just going to bust through this at our fastest speed possible. Oh, roger that. Okay, as we're getting close, I'll call it when I need you to start engaging those targets so we can move. Okay, 5 W's. So let's talk about escorting. So, the escorting of vehicles, you have to look at how many guys you're going to provide the escort for, how many vehicles, how large is the convoy, how small is the convoy, what type of weapons does it have. If you have two, three, or even more aircraft, do you need them all on the convoy? No, preferably for a convoy escort, you're looking at two ships to really provide the escort. Now, if you've got three, then one of those can be providing reconnaissance, or they can go ahead and go further ahead and scout out things. So, this is an example of us supporting mechanized, and this is a battalion size element. So, you can see here you got one company, one company. So, this is a very large element. This element could stretch almost a mile and a half in distance. So that is a large unit to protect. So if you have three aircraft, that might be having them all on the convoy. If you only have two aircraft, the convoy commander is going to tell you where he needs you the most. You might recommend, and always remember, when you are supporting a convoy, you are not there telling the convoy commander what to do. You're there telling him, hey, I can do this for you. Is that what you want? So always remember, you are there to help him. So in this example is a three ship, and one of those can be utilizing as a scout 2 kilometers ahead of the location. So this one here is just far forward, identifying any bottlenecks or anything that can provide the commander an ideal of what he needs to do prior to getting to that location. I would always use in a three ship escort mission, I would have one guy go further out as far that as me let's say I'm in the lead of the convoy or the trail of the convoy, I have eyes on him because by doing that, I'm also protecting that guy that's doing the scouting ahead in front of us. Because if I start seeing tracer rounds come up from behind him, he doesn't see the tracer rounds. He doesn't see the smoke from a missile. So you don't want to be so far in front that you're out of the protection of your elements or of the ground commander, because the ground commander could also be there to support you in case you get hit and you have to go down. So let's look at how we're utilizing this. Now, if we fly directly over the convoy, is that the best type of protection? No, not really, because you're not given that standoff capability to provide protection for your convoy. So when you're going to escort, think of it as I've got sectors of fire. Okay, so I can look to the right of me and I see the lead convoy, but I'm scanning in front of him to his left. I'm on his left side. As the escort that's in trail, I am there to provide overwatch coverage over the entire convoy and my partner in crime that's also in the lead as well. So we are always covering each other if you think about it. So his location is from the 7 o'clock to the 3 o'clock. That's where he can see the best. For the trail, he could see the best. He sees where the trail is for the convoy, and he sees maybe 2 or 3 o'clock, and he can see that as well. If you have an aircraft that you're just flying by yourself is always a challenge. So I always recommend when you're doing an escort mission, have a buddy fly with you. This is an example of 3 aircraft, and in my perfect world in DCS, I would have every one of these manned with 2 individual people inside of them because the aircraft pilot can have eyes on the convoy and he's tracking the convoy in very close. The eyes of this pilot is also tracking the convoy and looking very close. The guy in front is the guy that's scanning. He's the guys with eyes out. And just like in the scouts doing the exact same thing. Let's say it's not an Apache. Let's say it's 3 Hueys. I would do the exact same thing. One guy flying while the other guy has his binoculars and is looking out. If you're flying by yourself and you're doing the same mission but you're in a KA-50, then it becomes really, really difficult because visibility, again, right tool for the right job means you have to readjust how you're going to support this. In a KA-50, you have a better view on the left side of the aircraft than the right side. If you're flying, let's say, for example, by yourself in a HIP, you're flying either from the left seat or the right seat. So you can't see the other side. So if you're doing this by yourself, pick the right tool to do the right job and utilize your strength in your aircraft for the visibility that you have. So let's look at from aspect of just 2 aircraft. So if 2 aircraft, then I don't need both aircraft on the convoy. Again, what am I doing? I'm pushing one of those aircraft out in front of the convoy to kind of scout ahead because that's his purpose. His purpose is to protect all his little chicks from the big bad wolf. No pun intended. And you have your escorting aircraft that's on trail sees the entire convoy. So if he sees tracer fire, he can immediately start engaging where that rounds are coming from and start suppressive fire or direct the convoy commander to start breaking off and going away from the enemy, or he might be there to provide those additional eyes to protect the scout that's in front. So quick response. The scout that's in front has the biggest lead time on any potential ambush or activity for the ground commander to decide if he's going to change his direction. Now, if we're down to only one, you're doing a DCS mission, you're on Rotary, or you're on some other mission and you are escorting a convoy to a location for resupply and you're by yourself. How do you best do it? Well, again, you are looking at scouting in the front, but you're not so far ahead. You're still those eyes in the sky. If you see something, say something. Now, when you're doing this type of mission and you're by yourself and it's only a one, then periodically you've got to do a U-turn. You've got to turn around and you got to check your convoy just in case something didn't all of a sudden happen to your convoy and you miss it. Think of it like Red October when he does a crazy Ivan. What is he doing? He's wanting to check to make sure nobody is behind him. Well, when you're in a one ship, you have to do the same thing. You cannot always stay focused in just one direction. You, as the scout, needs to make those circles, come back, take a look, make sure everything's good, then go back out. You've cleared the area between yourself and the convoy, so you know that area is clear, but you're checking the convoy, making sure everything's good, and then you'll turn back in the direction of travel and continue doing your scouting. Very, very difficult. So, key factors to consider. One is how best to protect the convoy. What type of equipment are you carrying? How can you best protect it? The best thing that you have that the convoy commander does not have is eyes in the sky. You might have a display that you can see further out. You might be in a Kiowa and you can scan 5, 6 miles down the route. So you can be over or behind the convoy and you can scan way ahead of that convoy. That is a great tool. By doing that, the pilot is watching and protecting the convoy while the person in the left seat is using his camera or his equipment to get eyes on ahead ahead of the traffic. Information is vital that you relay that for best situational awareness, not only for you to give it to him, but for what he's doing for you. He might tell you he sees something that you don't see, and that gives you an idea, do I need to investigate it or do I not? You might also decide be the only thing that the commander says, you are my eyes. It's nighttime. I've only got NVGs. I can't see very well. We're driving down these roads. We're in the woods. You are my eyes to tell me, is there any heat things? Is there something that you see that we don't see? So you might be the only thing that he can utilize because the terrain makes it to where he can't see what's on the other side of the hill, other side of the draw, other side of the trees, other side of the town. And you don't, he doesn't want to be set in an ambush spot that he could have had you go recon and tell him, hey, that's good, that's bad. And again, if you haven't noticed that I use a lot of acronyms, MET-T is one of those acronyms. How does MET-T help us or hinder us in this operation? So MET-T is the definition of your mission, your equipment, what the enemy is doing, what time you have is available, or what time you need to be somewhere, what type of equipment as far as troops or techniques that you need to do, what's the terrain doing, what's the time of day, and so forth. So sometimes doing a convoy at night is better than during the day because if your enemy does not have the capability of seeing through the darkness, who's in a better position? If it's raining and cloudy and you're going through the valley, what makes it harder for you to set up and tell him where enemy might be located? You might not be able to see it. The terrain might dictate that you can't fly high enough to get over the terrain because he's going through the mountains to get to another spot and you can't protect him during these certain crucial areas between two, let's say, bridges or two draws. So those things you have to think about and pre-plan ahead of time. So when we're doing this type of activity, we also have to think about What's the worst case scenario? What can really happen that goes bad? You know, get ambushed. Somebody gets hurt. You have to are you equipped to conduct a medevac, or do you have to call in a medevac? So we always have to have this, and you'll see this in your knee board today if you're doing the practical and the flying. You'll see that here's two 9 lines. There's the NATO 9 line, and there's a 9 line for the U.S. You can interchange this and so forth, but it has all the same crucial information. The location. Where are we going to pick up from? Who are we talking to? The call sign. What type of patients do we have? Are they urgent? Are they priority? Are they routine? It could be vehicle got hit by an IED. I've got two that one person, and I'll give this as an example. One person has something in their eye, the explosion, and they've got a piece of shrapnel. It's embedded in their eye. One person has his wrist and it's broke. And another person had his leg, it's severed. Who is critical? Who is priority? As a convoy commander, you're like, oh my God, they're all priorities, but they're not. Urgent is eyesight, life, and limb. So I've got two that need urgent. You know, the one with the broken wrist, well, does he require immediate medical treatment? Nah. Can he still drive a vehicle? Yes. We just wrap his hand up and we move on and so forth. So what does that mean for you when you're calling this out? If you're the person calling it out, I want my help, and I need to tell them what they need to bring in order to help me. And if you're in the convoy and you see a helicopter that's, let's say, a 60, or let's say a hip, oh, they can carry all my people. Okay, boom. You now are going to be the priority person. Might say, hey, I can go ahead and pick up all these people. That just means you only have one escort compared to two. Okay, but those are types of things. What type of security for the LZ? Is it controlled by the enemy? Are you in a hot LZ? Did they go to a different location and they pulled security? Do they have other people providing security? Are they in a civilian location and so forth? And then how's it going to be marked? In DCS, we normally mark medevac, or let's say a CASEVAC, or picking up a down pilot with, we use smoke. Okay, so that's an example of smoke. But let's say you're doing nighttime. I can't see the smoke at night. So one of those things for a 9 line might say, hey, I'm going to do a lasso with my laser. Do you have NVGs? I'm in an Apache. I cannot see your laser. Oh, but wait. If I put my NVGs on, I can see your laser. So those are types of things to think about. And then, by doing this, if somebody performs the medevac function, you're given the crucial information that they need in order to save your guys. What other things can we do? If we're doing an escort, we also need to know that in case we have CAS support, or let's say we have artillery support, along this entire route, we might have a filled artillery battery, and this is also in your knee board. You could call out for filled artillery, and I will tell you that in my missions, in my scenarios, you can actually call that, and we will put rounds downrange to suppress the enemy and doing all that kind of stuff. What type of activities do we need to tell the commander about things? Might give a spot report. So as you're doing these escorts, you need to give him crucial information. What is crucial information? If I see a vehicle coming down my direction, do I say, hey, there's a fast moving vehicle coming down our direction? Right? Well, what is he going to ask you? Is it a military vehicle? Oh no, it's a truck. Okay. What is it doing? It's going really, really fast. Oh, it's going with the same as other traffic. Oh, it just made a U-turn. Okay. You know, is it when did you see it? If you conducted a spot report further in front of the convoy, let's say 15 minutes ago, and you come back because you couldn't talk on the radio because there's a mountain in between you and the convoy commander, and you say, "Hey, I see that there's four vehicles in the middle of the road. It looks like a roadblock." Roger that. When did you see this? 10 minutes ago. Or that vehicle's traveling, there's a tank and it's moving in our direction. Well, how fast is it going? Those are questions. Anything that you give me as far as information, I'm going to I'm going to try to get as much information out of you as I can. So, providing that spot report or salute report, and if you notice, spot and salute report are kind of close. Um, what's the size of the unit? What's the activity? What are they doing? Oh, they're setting up an ambush or they're moving in another direction. Where are they at? Hey, they're on the left side of the road behind the mosque. There's two T-72 tanks. Uniform. I see guys on the ground, they're carrying weapons and they look like they're in civilian clothes. They don't look military. Okay. I saw them 20 minutes ago or I saw them right now and so forth. What special equipment? Hey, I see that there's a bridging unit that we might be able to utilize and so forth. So those are things to think about that when you're doing an escort mission, you need to have that stuff available because that's crucial information. If I just were to say, hey, there's enemy up front, hey, turn left, go down this road, and you'll bypass all of them. Well, if they were just with machine guns and I've got nothing but tanks, do I need to have those tanks bypass those guys? Now, if you tell me there's guys with RPGs, I might say, yeah, I don't want to go near them. Let me go ahead and take my unit of tanks around them. You go ahead and kill them with your machine guns or with your, miniguns if you're in a Chinook, for example. So those are things I always consider. Call for fire. In this one, it's in your knee board, but this is such a long location that's going to be traveled for this mission. We're not going to necessarily get into the call for fire, but it is in your knee board. And yes, you can call for fire if you need it. Communication and frequencies. So this is just an example on the left side of, you could be a flight of two or three. How are you going to communicate? Who you're going to communicate with? The pre-brief is so important when you're doing these type of missions. What frequencies are you going to use? What's the backup frequency you're going to use? Why are you going to use this over that? Well, none of my ground guys got a VHF radio. Only my convoy commander has a VHF radio. So if he gets hit, does that mean that's the only way you can communicate? No. You have FM. Or you might have a JTAC that's with them in the convoy. He's got a VHF and a UHF as well. So think about that when you're talking with your convoy commanders or how you're going to communicate in between the convoy and the flights. And for example, for ours today that we're going to be utilizing, that's going to be in your knee board. It says the frequency for the 501st training area, which we're going to be at. You'll notice that I have circled right here the convoy ops frequency, and that is FM 57 and VHF 138 and channel 15. Now, if you notice in all of our aircraft, depending on if you have an ARC 164 or if you have a VHF, I've got channels already set. So in case you have something that you have to have your channels set, you can go to your channel frequency, switch over to channel 10, boom. Switch over to channel 15, boom, and so forth. Now, by us utilizing this, we're already setting the ground rules up. How are we going to communicate with the convoy commander? Today, we're going to communicate with the convoy commander via 138. So we're going to monitor channel 57 because he's going to be talking to his guys inside of that. Okay. We have an air ops channel of FM 30, 245, and 128. So if we have any fast movers that, let's say, for example, we're by ourselves and I need to know who's operating in my airspace. So in case I need them, I know what frequency to go to. Also, medevac is a heartbreak. They're on 3255 or 525. Those are things that we as convoy escorts need to know. All those questions are going to be great at the beginning, but they're going to suck when you're in the middle of the firefight and you have a downed helicopter, you've got guys on the ground that are injured, and now you need to, like, oh, where can I find it? Where can I do it? And so forth. So think about that. Today, us conducting this escort mission is going to be the 5 W's. So who, what, where, when, how, and why. So when we're conducting this, we need to get our heads in the game of how we're going to do it, who we're going to do it for, how things going to work out. So this is just an example of an operations order. It has usually 5 paragraphs. You have your situation, mission, coordinate instructions, command and signal, and so forth. So for today's mission, if you're doing the practical, and we're going to go through these maps here because these are going to be things that you need to think about as an escort. 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 3rd BCT, is pushing to the north of Palmyra Airfield in Syria to conducting defensive operations as a part of Operation Cloak and Dagger. There has been reports of insurgencies doing their operations throughout the AO, and they are supported by the Khazar regime. Now, the Khazar regime, they are to the north. They are doing operations. We are there under the NATO alliance under Operation Cloak and Dagger. Our mission, your mission today, the Hammerheads, the first of the 51st, 50, I'm sorry, first of the 501st Aviation Battalion will be conducting a convoy escort of Dragon. That is 3rd Company, 10th Armor, from Palmyra Airfield to FARP Alpha no later than 08 local time in order to conduct further defensive operations. The coordinated instructions as follows. Pony, which is the 2nd Squad, 3rd Platoon, and that is military police, they're going to be pre-positioned over in our staging areas at the rally point in checkpoint 1, and they're going to escort the convoy. They're providing traffic management. Okay, so they're there to help, as you get to an intersection, the vehicle will go up, it'll stop, it'll make sure no traffic is coming, and so forth. So their call sign is going to be Pony. So you have Pony 7-3 is going to be lead, Pony 7-2 is going to be trail. Dragon, that is the company commander, he's going to be Dragon 310. So now we have who we're going to be hearing on the radio and who we're going to be talking to. Rules of engagement is only return fire if in contact and being engaged. Warning shots will be used in front of any vehicles that are getting close to the convoy. We are not there to kill poor Johnny carrying his girlfriend to go watch a movie just because they can't read signs and they get too close to a convoy. We're not just going to light them up and ruin their day. So everything has a warning shot. If you see an enemy, unless they're actively shooting at you, just conduct a spot report to the convoy commander, or make a note for the end of the mission so we can give it to our S2 or our intel folks so they know what's going on. Command and signal. Frequencies. Ground and air communication will be on VHF 138, and we're going to be monitoring 57 for convoy internal frequencies. Now let's look at the map. This is exactly what you'll see in DCS today. And you'll notice that there is lines everywhere. There's all sorts of stuff. So we have the airfield here to the south, and that is Palmyra. We have an operation that's being conducted, Operation Raider, that's being conducted by CH-47. They're doing a raid operation. They're actually practicing. We have Operation Lightfoot. They're conducting reconnaissance up there. We also have another operation that is heading to the northeast of Palmyra. We are going to be supporting the convoy that's coming up, MSR Snake. So we have Pink that is going to the east, MSR Snake that's going north and to the northwest, and it'll eventually link back up at checkpoint 8. And we also have MSR Dog up at checkpoint 8. The convoy is going to take MSR Snake all the way to FARP Alpha, which is checkpoint 4. They're going to go ahead and do a resupply there and also refuel, refit, and continue on. Now, from Rally Point Alpha or Release Point Alpha all the way to checkpoint 4, the convoy traveling speed is going to be about 35 to 40. Okay, so that's 40 miles an hour from their end. It's going to take them about an hour and a half just to get to FARP Alpha. There's going to be another escort from the air that's going to take the rest of the convoy from that point and is going to escort them to their final destination, which is checkpoint 8. We are going to go ahead and rearm, refit, and we're going to go back to Palmyra for further on operations. So let's look at each one of these areas kind of in more of a sequence. So from Palmyra, the convoy is going to have a stage, and they're going to go ahead and drive through. It's going to take them a little while to drive through the town to link up with the MPs. So Pony is going to be waiting there at this Y intersection, and there's also power lines here. They're going to be waiting for them to show up. Once they show up, they're going to go ahead and they're going to go ahead and move pretty fast in front of the convoy to get kind of a lead. We do have a checkpoint or a guard station that the convoy and everybody's going to be going past. That is just a normal checkpoint guard station that is there. They're going to go ahead and open up the gate to allow the convoy to go through. So there should be no slowdown going past that point. Checkpoint Alpha is where you see this high terrain. You'll have a high terrain and a high terrain. And this is kind of the gap that's in between these two high areas. There's a reservoir that's over near checkpoint 2, and that checkpoint 2 is also another intersection. So that checkpoint 2 is going to be a Y intersection. They're going to be taking the one to the left. So this right here is a nice choke point. So we just need to be aware of that choke point. That's why checkpoint 1, keep your eyes out and so forth. After checkpoint 2, it's following MSR Snake all the way up. Checkpoint 3 is another Y intersection. And again, they're going to stay to the left of that road. And then you have your MSR that goes to the north. We still have civilian traffic. Excuse me. We still have civilian traffic that's going to be operating in this area. So just keep advised of that. One of the things that we always have to think about is because we got civilian traffic, doesn't necessarily mean every vehicle is a bad vehicle. So if a vehicle comes, see what its posture is. What is it doing? Does it turn around if it gets really, really close in front of the convoy? Fire a couple of warning shots in front of it. Does it turn around? If it doesn't turn around and it continues, then if they don't stop, there's a good chance they have bad intentions. Now that's checkpoint 3, and then you see checkpoint 4. In checkpoint 4 is going to be where it's a FARP, and it's going to be a stage area, so everybody's going to see that FARP. It's going to be very obvious. But if you notice, We have Delta Uniform 1-4, and right at the intersection of Delta Uniform 2-4, this whole high terrain can be a great observation post. So enemy could be observing us. They could also call for fire. There could be some bad things we don't know. That's why we are there to provide that escort. We have great visibility over this low terrain. It's kind of flat. So even if you fly high up, you can probably get good visibility. This is really hard because you don't know what's on top of these hills, what's in some of the valleys. So you have to keep your eyes out and keep your eyes peeled. Once we get over to checkpoint 4, which is the FARP, the convoy is going to go ahead and slow down, stop, pull in. It's going to take them about 2.5 hours to get fueled. There's a hot fuel point that they're going to get fuel as they're going through. So they're going to do that. We do have a fire base located on top of this ridge line here. It's Firebase Lightning. Firebase Lightning has the range of about 25 kilometers for field artillery. So in case we needed field artillery for whatever reason, you'll notice that there is target reference points that are already designated. With that being the case, I'm going to go back to our original page. As we see here, Firebase Lightning, and if you kind of look at it, that distance right there, they can probably reach out to checkpoint 3, but they might not be able to go past checkpoint 3 for any field artillery. So just keep that in mind of what type of assets you have. We do have a C-17 that is flying back and forth from Palmyra going to the coast. And we also have some C-130s doing airborne operations to the north, so you might see them. So you'll have other aircraft. You have CH-47s conducting Operation Raider. You've got Trash, which is C-130s doing airborne operations in the Northeast. So now we all have a big picture of what's happening and what we're doing. We're supporting an armored convoy, so it's going to have tanks, but they're also going to have HEMTT fuel tanks. So the HEMTT fuel tanks are going to be in the middle of the formation to provide, they're be the best location for them. And then you'll have some MRAPs that are trailing. All the MPs are going to be in MRAPs as well. So there's going to be at least 4, I believe, MRAPs for the one squad and another 4 for the other squad that's lead and trail. So their eyes are out as well. They're doing their protection. So for convoy ops, for the aircraft that we have and the people that are participating, we're looking at maybe 2 or 3 aircraft. I would recommend that we buddy up in an aircraft as well. If you can fly in, let's say, a Huey, and you have a Huey, or you can fly 2 people in a HIP, and so forth, I always recommend one person flying, one person eyes out, so you can monitor the radio and talk. It's a lot of work to do when you're doing convoy ops if you're there by yourself. So teamwork, CRM, crew resource management, very, very important. So with that being the case, do we have any questions right now on convoy ops? Because as we get ready, the altitude that we're going to be operating at is depending on MET-T. So we might be higher at some locations. We might be lower at some locations. We might need to get close to something to see it. We might need to get higher up to see a better distance. So you can't say one size fits all. It's all MET-T dependent. Mission, equipment, type of terrain, time available, and so forth.